With the living black ooze of Marvel recently making its way into the MCU from the Sony Spider-Verse, you have to wonder what exactly will happen with this alien symbiote. Today, I take a look at the MCU and what Venom could do in this new universe. Stay tuned. Hey guys, my name is DJ, and at the end of Venom Let There Be Carnage, there was a shocking reveal that took everyone by surprise. In the movie's post-credit scene, amidst all the multiversal madness taking place in Spider-Man No Way Home, we can see Eddie Brock being pulled into the MCU. But after the events of No Way Home, Eddie Brock was sent back to the Sony Spider-Verse of villains alongside his symbiote. However, a little piece of Venom can still be seen hanging around in the MCU following Eddie's ejection from this universe. So, hooray! I guess we now have Venom in the MCU. Sure, it's without Eddie Brock, but we don't need him specifically to make this symbiote character interesting. But that begs the question. Now that Venom is in the MCU, what happens next? What exactly can Venom do with this huge character opportunity? Well, while there are plenty of fun things you could do with Venom in this new universe, which I'll get to in a little bit, I will say that there is one thing in particular that they specifically should not do with Venom in the MCU. Even though the two Sony Venom movies might have been met with somewhat mixed reactions, it is clear that Sony has decided to put a lot of their chips into Venom and the rest of the symbiotes. Hell, their last movie with him centered all around some of Venom's alternate symbiotes with Carnage and Shriek. So with Sony deciding to continue their pursuit of reaching all the other symbiotes like Carnage and Shriek, like I assume they will continue to do in their universe, then I think the MCU should go out of its way to not do this. There is so much that they could do with Venom in the MCU that they should just let Sony have their fun. Leave them to deal with all the other symbiotes and just use Venom as the main ooze of the MCU. Not only will this bring a distinct feel to both versions of Venom as their separate universes continue on, but it also allows the MCU to focus specifically on doing something unique for Venom in their universe. Venom is such a layered opportunity for Marvel Studios that just bringing in other symbiotes and almost recreating what Sony is doing in their universe will only make Marvel Studios feel lesser than by comparison as they just copy what's going on over there. But after going through what they shouldn't do with Venom, let's get into the fun bit of this conversation. What can Venom do in the MCU? And, well, there are a couple of different routes that I would personally love to see Venom go through in the MCU. The first one, of course, being an eventual bond with Spider-Man. Having Venom attached to Spider-Man almost immediately is kind of a no-brainer. Venom's origin came alongside Spider-Man in the comics. He is usually an enemy of Spider-Man, and the MCU has the potential of making a pretty damn good Venom storyline after Spider-Man 3's more generally hated version of that live-action tale. Hell, I even have a full what they should make video of Spider-Man 4 where Venom ends up becoming the main villain to Tom Holland's Peter Parker. And like I mentioned in that video, this is the perfect time in the MCU to bring Venom into Peter Parker's life. A symbiote that usually makes its host angrier and more depressed showing up during Peter Parker's lowest point in life just makes sense. That story of Peter Parker reaching rock bottom following May's death and then almost being encouraged by Venom to become angrier and angrier is kind of a perfect story for them. But okay, the symbiote taking over Peter Parker's life feels kind of like an obvious story. So, what else could Venom do now that it has this unique opportunity of being in the MCU? Well, I see just about two big possibilities for Venom following its eventual bond with Spider-Man. One that adapts Venom into more of a cool weapon, and one that focuses more on the character of the symbiote. And the first one is a story that I think could be well adapted into the MCU's current set of events. A story where Venom gets transformed into Agent Venom. In the comics, following Flash Thompson's loss of his legs in military combat, Flash signed up for a program created by Homeland Security. You see, the government had recently acquired the Venom symbiote and, after a bunch of testing, decided to use it as a weapon. So their plan then was to use Venom as a type of super soldier armor to protect the US against enemy threats. And after bonding with Flash during this experimental program, the government used Flash to fight in secret battles against foreign countries with this symbiote. And that idea of somebody using Venom as a weapon as opposed to it being the other way around is actually kind of interesting. But I do think there is a rather interesting way to tie the current set of events taking place in the MCU to Agent Venom. What if, instead of Homeland Security being the group that captures the symbiote like in the comics, what if it's this secret organization that is currently being teased by Valentina Allegra de Fontaine? Over Phase 4, we've watched as this mysterious woman has started recruiting and forming this almost dark Avengers-looking group. Apparently, this group is looking to be the Thunderbolts, which is a team that is kind of Marvel's answer for the Suicide Squad in that it's a team of villains put together to do some good. And while that seems fun, I think that this team in the MCU could add this Agent Venom character to their roster. Venom's whole deal in the Sonyverse is that he's kind of an asshole that's trying to grow more as a person. In the first movie, Eddie Brock and Venom would fight constantly before Venom decided that he ultimately likes humanity and wants to do better for Earth. So that kind of character could continue here with a new host as one of the members of the Thunderbolts. Not only that, but I think that this secret organization would be much more suited for Agent Venom in the MCU than to just have Agent Venom be created by some random government program. Sure, we've seen the government get involved in the MCU before, but they've really taken a step back lately when it comes to getting involved with these superpowered beings. But even if they were to go down this route of the government program story that we've seen in the comics, I still think that it would be pretty cool to see Agent Venom in the MCU. Sure, it's a very different approach to Venom than what most fans of the character are probably used to, but I think that this could work under the MCU umbrella. And hell, I still think that the MCU's version of Flash Thompson would be a really interesting choice to have as Agent Venom. The MCU's Flash Thompson is clearly not the biggest or strongest guy in the room like his comic counterpart, but he is a rather smart kid that loves Spider-Man. So I could totally see him following a similar arc to Flash Thompson in the comics. I even think that this smaller version of the character would be almost more likely to jump at the opportunity of working with Venom because he's not the toughest person in the world and would be drawn to that power. But okay, if you want to stick to the more traditional version of the Venom character while still utilizing him in the MCU specifically, then why not try this next approach? So when it comes to Venom, I got to thinking about how exactly it could benefit from being in this new huge universe full of different heroes and villains. Sure, he could be Agent Venom like I mentioned, but that's not something that he couldn't do on his own in the Sonyverse. Hell, a part of me almost expects Sony to go down that route with how things are progressing in that universe. No, Venom has a unique opportunity here now that we can see him interacting with all of these different MCU characters. Not only that, but this version of Venom is actually kind of different than the one we're probably used to, even if it's just in a very small way. Traditionally, the way Venom's story is told is that the symbiote crashes down to Earth and bonds almost immediately with Spider-Man. It targets the strong, acrobatic, and superpowered webhead first in most stories. However, with this version of Venom, the symbiote's first interaction with humanity is with Eddie Brock, just a normal, plain, non-superpowered being on Earth. So as opposed to most stories, Venom will actually kind of see a sort of progression in power when it comes to its different hosts. And I think that this power level progression could end up becoming a story where Venom is just itching and itching to get more and more powerful with each host. After Venom is eventually and inevitably rejected by Peter Parker, we can watch as Venom starts to kind of break down a little bit. Since this symbiote seems to be one with more complex emotions, it can go on this path of desperately wanting the most powerful host it could find. It could go after the new Black Panther due to their technological power and their political power as a whole when running Wakanda. And also I think that suit would be really, really cool looking. I mean, come on. It could then go after Shang-Chi because Venom might realize that the power of the mystic arts could end up becoming really handy. The symbiote could even go after the Hulk because, well, look at him, he's just so damn big and powerful. Not only that, but Venom has actually taken over the Hulk in the comics before. Venom going on this power-hungry spree and affecting the other heroes in the MCU is a perfect way to utilize Venom in my opinion. This is a unique opportunity to utilize Venom to its fullest as it gets the chance to corrupt so many different powerful beings. But with it now being in the MCU, I think that there are just so many little fun avenues you could play with when it comes to Venom. And Venom is such a unique character that having it in both Sony's Spider-Verse and the MCU doesn't really feel like that big of an issue. And it'll be pretty fun as a viewer to see Venom in these two different universes hopefully progressing in completely different directions. Whether it's the case of Sony's Venom being more of a hero with the MCU's Venom being more of a villain, or whether Venom becomes the symbiote killer in Sony's universe as Venom goes a bit more traditional with its hunger for a host in the MCU, I can confidently say that I expect some wildly different but interesting versions of Venom across both universes. Thank you all so much for watching this video. With Venom now being in the MCU, what are you looking forward to most with the symbiote? And what do you think about these different pitches that I brought up for Venom in the MCU? Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. But until next time, have a good day. Bye-bye.